Tully's on board?
More than on board.
So you put out this feeler, and I assume you're still talking about Barry Darsow at that point, and then Darsow puts a bug in Vince's ear and Vince calls you back and you guys have a conversation, or did you fly to Stanford?
No, we were told when I got back and called the next day we were going to be in Philly, and we're wrestling the Midnight Express again in Philadelphia, for God's sakes. You know how excited all six of us were about that, obviously, right?
Sure.
You can just anticipate those people in Philadelphia who are blood and guts. They got four guys that are going to go out and give it to them, blood and guts. So that, we were all very, very excited about that. So anyway, I called Darsow. He says, I'll get back in touch with you. We get to Philly, private plane. He says, okay, I just spoke to somebody in the office. Vince wants you to fly to Stanford in the morning. You'll have 2 plane tickets waiting for you at the airport. He'll have a limo pick you up, going to bring you to his house, and he'd like to talk to you guys. So we get up the next morning. We fly to New York. Limo picks us up, takes us to Vince's house. We're out by the pool, and we have our discussion. I'd love, he could... Vince in those days could just have you floating on air. When he talked to you for 5 minutes, you'd just turn and walk off and you'd feel like you were 3 feet above the ground. He had all your history. He had, all the accomplishments, and really was complimentary. And he asked us what we were going to make, or what we'd been making, excuse me. He said, what have you guys been making? And we told him, and he says, well, we don't have guaranteed contracts with my company. We have opportunity. He said, but I guarantee you guys will make more than you made with Crockett. So don't worry about that. And we took him at his word. And we agreed on a start date. And we asked him what he wanted us to do about the World Tag Titles. Did he want us just to turn them in? Or he said, no, what do you think you should do? And I said, well, Bobby Eaton and the Midnight Express are friends of mine, and they're business partners of mine, and I'd like to do the right thing. I'd like to drop the titles to Bobby myself, take the fall on me. So you do what you think is right, Arn. And we got back to Philly, got down to the arena, went in, and we had a talk with Dusty, and I told him that's what I'd like to do, and he said, fine.
Let's pump the brakes right there for a minute. I want to clarify this meeting with Vince in Stanford by the pool. This is happening the morning of the Philadelphia show. The Philadelphia show's at night, right?
Correct.
When you're meeting with Vince by the pool, I know you don't get any specifics about cash, but does he give you any specifics about dates? Because in that era, they were madmen running shows 2 times a day sometimes, and running 2 and 3 crews. Road Warrior is an understatement for what the schedule was back then. Is that discussed at all at that point?
Well, no, it did not go into it at all. And to be honest with you, I said earlier that it was a huge consideration on me staying with Crockett, because I had, it had come through the grapevine. Not only were they making huge money through their marketing and through the houses and all that, they were also running 3 towns a night, and they were working their ass off. And we all knew that. But for the first time in my life, I had been insulted professionally. I felt like I had been used and abused, believe it or not. And you look at it on face value, going out and having a 4-minute match with Dr. Death Steve Williams and getting beat right in the middle of the ring should not be a big deal. Had the timing not been what it was, and the issues not been what they were, and the sovereignty, if that's the correct word, of the company being at stake. Because let me tell you, when Steve Williams beat me, the roof did not come off the place. There was like a look of disbelief in the audience of, well, why the hell did they do that?
Right.
And so I didn't think, when I made that decision to go see Vince the next day, I did not even consider the number of days I would be working, which was probably one of the bigger mistakes I made. But I had to trust my gut on this situation. And at that point in time, I was just pissed and felt disrespected. And I hadn't felt that if at all, to that degree, since I'd been in the business. And if I had, I didn't remember when.
Did you discuss creative with Vince at all? Did he say, I've got some ideas in mind, or what about this, or what about that? Any sort of creative, or does Bobby Heenan even come up at that point?
He did not come up. He just said, I'd like to use y'all as a team. He said, it's not broke. I'm not going to mess with it. And that was another concern that I had, that he was really big into gimmicks and characters and all that he was going to try to put something on us that we couldn't pull off. He said, you guys don't worry about it. I'm going to leave you just as you are, because it's not broke.
So you come back, you go to Philadelphia, you get to the building. You and Tully have got to be on cloud nine. Is the first person you tell, do you give Jim Cornette or your buddy Bobby Eaton or Ric Flair a heads up, or is the first person you tell Dusty Rhodes?
Out of respect for Dusty, went in, and again, remember, I didn't have the conversation with Dusty the previous night about the Steve Williams. I had it with Jimmy.
Right. And Jimmy put all the heat on Dusty.
Yes. Whether or not that was true or not, I don't know. But I went in, and out of respect for Dusty and everything he had done for me the previous years, 3 years, whatever it had been, I went in and told him what we were doing. And I think he knew when you pull Tully Blanchard off of a plane and have him flying commercial to towns, you got to know that something is going to be rumbling, and there had to be in those days some repercussions, whether it was going to be Tully was going to get fired, or we're going to move on. That was the next step, or there was going to be a pushback. But you had to know something was coming. I doubt very seriously if Dusty ever in his wildest dreams thought we would leave. And it wasn't based on that one event. You got to back up and remember 11-7, that number should stick in your head, because that was the first time I was ever disrespected and lied to with no light at the end of the tunnel. The other half of that payoff, for some reason to this day, has really nagged at me. And you couple that with just a random squash job. It wouldn't have mattered who my opponent was. It could have been Dusty. It could have been anybody. It didn't matter. To do it at that time was just, in my mind, saying, I can do anything I want, and this is what we're doing just because. You guys need to cool your jets. That's the way I took it.